Well, thank you everyone for being here tonight. My name is Joe Francavilla, and I am the Executive Director of Strong Schools Maryland, and I could not be more proud than to say these next words. The blueprint for Maryland's future, because of your hard work, is now the law of the land in the state of Maryland. Congratulations to everyone, and thank you for being here. Now, tonight is a celebration, and it's a celebration 4 years in the making. And we would not be here without the hard work of so many individuals, and many of them on this call tonight, from Baltimore City to Garrett County to Prince George's County, Montgomery County, Harford County. Every single county in the state helped make this happen. And so I want to start by just going through some numbers of what we as Strong Schools Maryland were able to do and what the impact was. And so first, these numbers, when I go through them, I want you to remember every single one has a story behind it and a person behind it. They didn't happen by accident. They happened because someone cared enough to make it happen. And those people are on this call tonight. And so tonight is a celebration of you and a thank you for the work that you did. And so we're going to have a lot of guest speakers, special guests, and fun things going on. But at the core of it, this is a celebration we can have because the work that you did. It was not inevitable. It took work, and it took work from grassroots leaders and legislative leaders, but we did it together. And we had 700 plus folks in Annapolis every Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday for the last 2 years. We did over 200 legislator meetings. We had over 35,000 emails into lawmakers' offices. Many of those lawmakers, I'm sure, are on this call tonight and can remember a lot of those emails. 14,000 calls into legislators' offices, and most of those 14,000 happened in a 3-month period. We texted over 100,000 Marylanders and let them know what's going on with the blueprint, and we have over 500 people pre-COVID in person at our blueprint rally. And those are just some of the numbers. The other number that I want to point out here is our allies. We would not be here tonight without the allies in the Blueprint Coalition. And so you'll see that on this next slide here. We had over 50 statewide partners, and I wish I could name all of them, but they were all integral to our work, including the Maryland State Education Association, ACY, MedSep, BTU, AFT Maryland. Like, we couldn't have done it without all of our partners. This was a group effort. So tonight is a Strong Schools Maryland celebration, but many of our partners are here as well. And we would not be where we are without our partners. And so thank you to the coalition partners, which we were proud to co-chair for the last 3 years. And because today is about you and about celebrating you, you'll see on this next slide, we want to thank you. And I wish I could thank every single person on this call. We just don't have the time to do that, unfortunately. We have had over 300 team leaders, thousands of team members, and tens of thousands of allies. We just don't have the time to thank everyone individually. But there are a few people I do want to thank individually because they said yes before Strong Schools Maryland was a thing. There are OG team leaders. They're the people who, when we sat in coffee shops and tried to sell them on this idea, said, yeah, that makes sense, I'm in, before there was anything to be in about. And so on this next slide, you'll see some names of folks who either were our OG team leaders or took on additional responsibility beyond anything we could have dreamed. So we have Karen, Jill, Shaniqua, Lisa, Mike, Malcolm, and I'm going to share just one story. I wish I could share a story about everyone, but Shaniqua, a leader from Prince George's County, you can actually see in the picture. One of my favorite stories from the last 4 years. Also, if you can see my hair graying just a little bit. So I see a message. People are saying you can't see any slides. Is that true? Can someone else drop in the chat and let me know if you're not seeing slides? So people say they can see slides if you use the standard view. Make sure you get yourself out of gallery view and use standard view. So I'm just going to keep rolling through here and change your own view in the top right corner. And so one story about Shaniqua, which is my favorite, is I just finished shopping at Safeway on a Saturday morning and get a call. Not unusual to get a call from a team leader just to talk about the blueprint. And I get a call from Shaniqua that said, Joe, I need you to talk me through this and tell me the blueprint's on track, right? We're going to get this done, because I'm at this event talking about the blueprint, and there's this guy on stage who is trashing the blueprint, who is saying how terrible it is, making up lies. And, I told you I was going to fight for the blueprint, and I'm serious. I'm ready to fight for the blueprint. And so luckily, Shaniqua and I were able to have that conversation, and I've seen passionate team leaders, and then I've seen Shaniqua, and she is ready to fight for the blueprint in more ways than one. Next slide here. We also have so many team leaders from different parts of the state. Debbie, Jody on the Eastern Shore, Shar, David, Maria, MJ. Maria, so many great memories from Maria. A lot of them were the text messages of like, hey, check out where I'm doing my team meeting this month. Oftentimes it was at a restaurant or a bar. It's like, that's brilliant. And I ended up telling so many other people to steal that idea. So Maria, thank you for sharing that. The next one, set of folks we have here is Wade, Lee, Mike, Ellen, Joanne, Carol. Joanne brought the Deltas along. If you're familiar with the Divine Nine and just the power of our sororities and fraternities, Joanne brought the Deltas early, and the Deltas were a force for good. I'm not saying the AKAs weren't also a force for good, so I don't want to hear anything, but the Deltas absolutely crushed it here. Next slide. And we had Suze, Diana, Debbie, just folks that said yes before there was anything to say yes to, and didn't stop and ran through that finish line. And so one thing, if you saw any of your favorite team leaders or anyone else you want to shout out, make sure you put that in the chat as well, because we want to make sure we recognize everyone. But the next person that I have to recognize here is a group of individuals. And I wish we had time to talk for an hour about each person, but every single one of these people will be receiving our inaugural Public Education Champion Award. Now, I wish I could give it to you in person, but I can't. So we're going to make sure it ends up in your office. And I know I saw Delegate Kaiser, Chairman McIntosh on the call tonight, as well as some other folks. I saw Delegate Rosenberg. I saw Senator Elfreth, who was a champion and didn't hesitate once on anything, even though she's in a tough district. And so many public education champions, but we're actually awarding it to 9 people. And this is the first time ever we're giving out this award. So Senator Pinsky, Senator King, and Senator Young in the Senate, Speaker Jones, Chairman Kaiser, Majority Leader Luedtke, and Chairman McIntosh in the House. And there's going to be 2 other getting this award who are actually speaking tonight. And so I have the honor of introducing our first speaker. And so our first speaker and the inaugural recipient of the Public Education Champion Award is Senator Bill Ferguson, President of the Senate. And so I want to do just a quick intro. So President Ferguson, this is a message from Strong Schools to you, that there are few people in this country more committed to educational equity and reform than you are. When you first ran for Senate in 2010, you ran on building a system that works for all students, and that was the driving force of your campaign. Now, 10 years later, the blueprint for Maryland's future is law because of your leadership. It is now law, and hopefully we will see this as a model for other states in this nation. President Ferguson, as a consistent advocate for public schools and a steadfast supporter of Strong Schools Maryland, it is my honor to present you with one of our inaugural Public Education Champion Awards. And the floor, sir, is yours.
Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you to the entire coalition, to Strong Schools Maryland. I am incredibly honored and humbled to be able to be here with you tonight to celebrate this incredible accomplishment for the state of Maryland, and most importantly, not only for the economy of this state of Maryland, but for the young people who I think we finally said we have high expectations and we're willing to put our time, our energy, and our resources to ensure that you can meet your God-given potential. That was fundamentally the basis of all of this work, is the single belief that every single child should have the opportunity to maximize his or her God-given potential. it is. I'm truly humbled to be here, and it doesn't happen. All of this is teamwork, but it is always interesting to think that the blueprint was seen at some point as sort of this inevitable force that was going to pass. That is certainly not where it started. And when I was first elected back in 2011, we thought that this was going to occur in 2012, 10 years after the Bridge to Excellence, and it took a number of other movements in the legislature and how things go. And then in 2016, we started this work with an adequacy study. And very quickly, we realized that the adequacy study was going to be something a little bit more complicated. And I'll never forget the moment that I was sitting at the Kirwan Commission meetings. And I think Britt Kirwan is here, who I could never thank enough for his unbelievable leadership throughout this entire process. But there was this gentleman who I knew and had known for a while, and I was not on the commission at that point. I was just a member of the Budget and Taxation Committee who cared deeply about what we were doing. And after one of these meetings, he walked up to me and said, this will never happen unless we organize the state. And I was like, well, I think it could happen without organizing the entire state. That's a pretty bold thing to say. And he said, no, I've been through this before. In fact, I was testifying against myself in a lawsuit when I was the former state superintendent and realized that we were not funding education appropriately about 40 years ago. And if you don't have the entire state organized around this, it'll never happen. Well, that individual is David Hornbeck, who I think is also here this evening, and who saw this from the very, very beginning about what it would take to get to where we were. And that was back in 2017. And to think that conversation led to many small meetings with the incredible Sue Fothergill, who is, I think, here tonight, and Shannon Coleman and Taylor Stewart. And then Joe was able to join in to what eventually became Strong Schools Maryland. It is amazing how things come together. And what that initial conversation led to was an organized state that said, now is the time that we invest in the long-term future, and that is through our young people. And we demand and create the school system that is absolutely possible in an amazing state like Maryland. And so I'm just so thankful for the work that Strong Schools has done. I would be totally remiss if I didn't thank my partners in this work, Senator Pinsky, who was a champion from the very, very beginning, Majority Leader King, Senator Gazzoni, our chair of Budget and Taxation, Senator Rosapep, our vice chair, our president pro tem, Melanie Griffith, Senator Washington from Baltimore City, who has been just a champion in the House and then moved over and joined us in the Senate, Senator Zucker and Elfreth on the Budget and Taxation Committee. Really, this was a team effort, and this was an unbelievable amount of work. There's also one other former legislator who was not on the list to be awarded, but Senator Madaleno, former Senator Madaleno, who was on the commission and whose spot I eventually took. But he was absolutely a champion throughout this. It is just truly an incredible moment. But I do have one important message, and that is that this is an amazing accomplishment. It took an unbelievable amount of work to lay out this plan. None of it matters if we don't implement with fidelity and accountability. This is a great moment, and we need to celebrate, but the work starts now to make sure that we uphold the promise that was made through this law. And so this is a moment to enjoy, but the work continues because we have got to implement with true fidelity in order to maximize the full potential of this effort. And so I just want to say thank you all. Thank you for your commitment, your belief in what we can do as people here in the state of Maryland. And I just thank you for giving me this opportunity to hopefully continue to be a part of what will be an ongoing partnership to make this state the place it can be. So thank you, Joe, and thank you all.
Great. Thank you, President Ferguson. So the next section here with the next slide, which I am incredibly honored and excited to talk about. And I want to make sure we bring our Deputy Director, Shamoya Gardner, up to talk about this because she has done just amazing work bringing students in to the fold. Shamoya?
Hello, everyone. I am Shamoya Gardiner, Deputy Director here at Strong Schools Maryland. And as many of you know, Strong Schools Maryland was founded by and continues to be staffed by former public school teachers. As such, we believe in the inherent power of young people, and we've been demonstrating this over the last several years in our advocacy, partnering with student groups like The Intersection, the Baltimore Algebra Project, Baltimore City's Kerwin Champions for Change, and more. We are joined tonight by two student leaders from Montgomery County representing STEP, Students to End Poverty, who have been phenomenal in their advocacy on the blueprint for Maryland's future. Sadhana, Aaron, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Samoya. And before I get started, I want to thank Senate President Ferguson for his leadership on education issues and Strong Schools Maryland for inviting us to speak and their incredible work to get the blueprint enacted. My name is Aaron Tiao, and I am a sophomore at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. I'm the co-president of the club Students to End Poverty, or STEP, alongside Sadhana, and during the past few months, we lobbied to override the veto of the blueprint for Maryland's future. Growing up in this area, I've had access to some of the best opportunities and resources to help me succeed in high school and beyond. And for a long time, I assumed that this was normal. I assumed that everyone had Chromebooks in elementary school, everybody had played an instrument in 6th grade, every classroom had whiteboards, and everybody had field trips to amusement parks. But I quickly came to realize that this is far from reality. In January of last year, Sadhana and I worked with other students to start STEP, to mobilize our peers to help our communities through direct assistance to people in poverty. When COVID prevented us from doing those activities, we decided to lobby to create change on a larger scale. As a part of STEP's work, we researched the policy issues surrounding the blueprint, and the disparities based on socioeconomic status and race became abundantly clear. I could see how Black and Latinx students were underrepresented in AP classes and how difficult it is for low-income students to receive a proper education. And it hit me. Although the public schools that I attended provided the necessary resources and opportunities to succeed,
Christy?
so many others did not.
Hello?
Because the students were not smart or didn't work hard, but because they lived in less affluent areas. In November, at the suggestion of Delegate Jared Solomon, we began working with Strong Schools Maryland to join the fight to override the blueprint veto. With their guidance, we launched a letter writing campaign as well as testified in support of the bill. In addition, we identified schools in districts where state assembly members had previously opposed the bill and worked with students in those schools to lobby their elected officials. Thanks to the help and guidance of Strong Schools, a group of concerned students that had little to no lobbying experience was able to help pass one of the most important bills in Maryland history. This experience allowed me to use the resources that I am so fortunate to have to ensure that at some point, all students, no matter where they live, can have the same opportunities as me. In our country, education is the pathway to opportunity, and opportunity is the pathway to success. By passing the blueprint for Maryland's future, we are giving millions of students in our state the proper tools to succeed, regardless of their race, socioeconomic status, or place of residence. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sadhana Gupta-Bhattaria, and I'm also a sophomore at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. And I'm proud to say that I'm Aaron Tiao's co-president of Students to End Poverty. To start where he left off, I want to really thank Strong Schools for their support first and foremost. With their guidance, we launched a letter writing campaign that generated over 800 emails to elected officials and testified before the full Montgomery County delegation. My team and I reached out personally to other student organizations all over Maryland, asking them to help us lobby for the bill. Connecting with students outside of our own district only strengthened our resolve to get this bill passed, as they told us about the inequalities that they faced in their own schools. From the beginning of this pandemic, our student organization wanted to take a deeper look into how we could make an impact in our community through advocating for public policy. With this newfound experience and knowledge came confidence in our abilities to advocate for ourselves. And as students, this bill affects us the most, and we are grateful that we had a hand in pushing for such an important piece of legislation. Allie and Joe ran practice sessions to prepare us for our lobbying meetings, showed us how to launch our letter writing campaign, answered our numerous questions, and guided us as we went through this process. The entire STEP team is extremely grateful for their mentorship, and none of this would have been possible without them. When asking us to come speak today, they posed a question that stayed with me, and that is why the blueprint matters to us as students and all the students that will come after us. Here's what I believe. As the next generation of leaders, the blueprint will be monumental in our success as adults and as a state as a whole. This bill will give all students the opportunity to thrive in school and after it. And this is why it means so much for us to be here today celebrating its passage. It's because it represents what kind of a future we can have in Maryland. Equity starting in the classroom will hopefully translate to every other part of life. And it is the hope that this step in the right direction becomes a way of life. It is the hope that every student will have access to higher education or technical training so that they are set up for success. And it is the hope that no student is left behind, whether that be because of their race, gender, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. It is the fact that this used to be an ideal and is now a reality that truly embodies why celebrating with you today means so much to us. Thank you.
All right, thank you both so much for those fantastic words. And as we move into the next part of our program, I want to do a quick callback to what we saw earlier. And that was that we honored quite a few education champions at the legislative level, including chairs McIntosh and Kaiser, who are actually with us this evening. And if we could move to the next slide. Great. So our final elected honoree for this evening is a really great friend to Strong Schools Maryland. From the legislature to the Kerwin Commission and back again, this delegate has been not only a leader in education funding fight of the last several years, but a champion of equity and justice in education writ large. As vice chair of the Ways and Means Committee in the House and the chair of its education subcommittee, he has taken our calls, our texts, had meetings with us, suggested amendments he's listened to, and even brought Strong Schools Maryland into his legislative district to talk to his constituents and other local policy holders who will be implementing the blueprint just to ensure that the message about the imperative of the bill was heard far and wide. I am so thrilled to virtually present the Education Champion Award to Delegate Alonzo Washington. Delegate.
Thank you, Shamoya, and thank you, Strong Schools Maryland. Thank you so much for all your hard work and dedication to education and equity. I'm so appreciative of everything that you have done for so many of our young people. So thank you for that. I want to thank also Mr. Britt Kerwin, who is on the line today, for your hard work, sir, for your visionary leadership, and for everything you've done for the state of Maryland, you and your wife, and thank you all. And I also will be remiss if I didn't thank my colleagues in the House of Delegates. I saw that Senate President thanked his colleagues, so of course I'm gonna thank my colleagues in the House, Maggie McIntosh, who's the chair of Appropriations, Delegate Kaiser, who's the chair of Ways and Means, and Eric Luedtke, who's our majority leader here in the state. Here in the House of Delegates as well. And so, you know, I'm so appreciative of all of our colleagues who came together to get this thing done and to move forward. And I gotta thank my man, Joe. Joe, thank you for coming to my district. And you didn't just speak to my constituents, you came back and you spoke to two of my high school SGA participants, and they listened to you and you talked them about the blueprint and where we were. And so that's what Strong Schools Maryland does. And so thank you for that, for educating our young people on how we're investing in their community. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, okay. And I also want to thank Jessica Feldmark, Delegate Feldmark as well, for her hard work and dedication as well. And Shamoya, I want to thank you too, specifically as well, for your leadership, even before joining Strong Schools, for doing so much great work on racial equity in education. It was just such you were my person to go to, my go-to person to make sure that we had racial equity. We made sure that we focus on racial equity and racial equity lens in the blueprint for Maryland's future. And I'm thankful for your leadership and for your partnership and for making sure that you held us to account to get those amendments in this bill. So thank you for that in every single piece that we've done. It was a long road coming to getting this blueprint done. We started almost 4 years ago with Britt Kerwin and the Kerwin Commission and the members of that commission. But over a while, we figured it out. And even when Senator Ferguson wasn't the Senate president, he was there almost at every single meeting, sitting next to me. I remember that vividly, every single meeting, and I'm appreciative of him for his hard work and leadership on this matter as well. And I just think that over the course of the last 3 years, we worked extremely hard to get this thing done. And Strong Schools Maryland was with us every step of the way, from every amendment to every proposal that was made, to the floor fight that we had to resist. Several different key amendments on this bill, to the negotiation tactics. Strong Schools was there Strong Schools was there every single step of the way. So thank you again for all of the hard work that you guys have put into this. But I just wanted to say that I'm so appreciative that I, as a young Black man and elected official, that I was able to work on this issue that's going to affect so many young Black kids and young brown kids and minorities in this state of Maryland that were falling behind, and to no fault of their own. This piece of legislation, this visionary bill, is going to help them significantly. I was talking to someone yesterday about, we cannot let up the fight until the lowest performing student is excelling. We have to make sure, and that's what the Blueprint for Maryland's Future is about, to make sure that the lowest performing school is excelling at the highest level. And I just want to thank you all. And if we make sure every lowest performing school and lowest performing student is excelling, we are going to do our jobs. So keep up the fight, Strong Schools. Keep doing this. I'm proud that we've gotten this thing done. Thank you for all that you've done for this bill, to get this bill passed. It's because of you, and it's because of our students in our school system that we finally got this done. Thank you, everybody. And I look forward to working with you for the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Washington. I appreciate the thank yous, but it really goes to the work that our team leaders have done and our team members. And again, I know we've shouted out people a few times, but really Chair Kaiser, Chair McIntosh, we wouldn't be here without them. So thank you, as well as the rest of the members of the House and the Senate. And there's also Dr. Thornton is on the call tonight, and he started this journey a while ago and has been in the fight every single day. So thank you to everyone. So the next person that I have the privilege of introing, we keep talking about our team leaders. So let's hear from one of our team leaders. This is Lisa Fuller, and she's going to talk to you in a minute. And I have a good Lisa Fuller story. I have 100 good Lisa Fuller stories, but I don't have time for, unfortunately, 100 Lisa Fuller stories. So let me tell you one. We were in Annapolis 2 years ago, so the 2019 session, when it was still baby Kerwin. We didn't yet have the big bill. And we needed to talk to some senators, and Strong Schools wasn't yet Strong Schools. We were still building our credibility. And one of the people that we really wanted to talk to, but didn't have D39 residents there yet, was Senator King. And Lisa kept saying, what more can I do? Who else can I talk to? And I said, well, we need to talk to Senator King, but we don't have an appointment. So maybe come up next week and we can see what that happens. And just as that happened, Senator King turns the corner as if it was fate. And I was like, oh, well, there's Senator King. Too bad. It's a committee hearing. I guess we won't be able to catch her. Lisa says, no worry, and chases her down the hallway and says, nope, I got this. And literally just stayed on Senator King's shoulder until she got every word in she needed to get in, because that's who Lisa is. She is here to fight for the kids and will do whatever it takes. And so, Lisa, I know you remember that story because I tell it a lot. And there's a picture of it in this slide deck. But Lisa, for your work and for representing other team leaders on the call tonight, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, I do remember that story very well. So just to introduce myself briefly, I am a lifelong resident of Montgomery County, and I worked for Montgomery County Public Schools until about 4 years ago. And during my career, I taught and or supported schools in every school district of Montgomery County. I also attended and graduated from the University of Maryland. So Maryland education has always been a very large part of my life, personally and professionally. Like many, in 2017, I found myself entering the political scene. I quickly realized that my efforts would be best focused on local and state issues, which brings me to my early involvement with Strong Schools Maryland. Sometime in 2017, I attended an event and found myself listening to a gentleman, Dr. Britt Kerwin, it turned out, explain to me personally the vision that I had long imagined: a world-class education where all students are valued and provided opportunities no matter in which zip code they lived. At the end of this conversation, Dr. Kerwin pointed to a gentleman a few rows ahead of me and said, "If you'd like to get involved, speak to Joe." And the rest, as they say, is history. The Blueprint for Maryland is inclusive, comprehensive, and has components that, when fully implemented, will create a world-class education right here in our state of Maryland. When I first saw the blueprint, I think it was in my dining room, there were about 11 parts. And as Joe suggested to us, pick a passion in these parts. And for me, my passion has been on how our children begin and how they end their Maryland pre-K through 12 educational experiences. Providing all-day early childhood education to eligible 3 and 4-year-olds is already preparing some of our youngest learners for their experiences in kindergarten. Stepping into the classroom as a 5-year-old, eager, prepared, and confident, puts children on the path to success. Bookending that child's educational experiences with a variety of pathways and opportunities throughout their pre-K through 12 experiences gives value to career and college choices. Anything is possible, given the right support and encouragement, and that's what I believe this blueprint does. It has been an exhausting 4 years for all of us, with so many ups and downs, but the one consistent has always been Strong Schools Maryland. The leadership and commitment of this group has never wavered. The consistency of message has kept us on our path. Team leaders from around the state have gathered in person and even before COVID by phone or Zoom so that we hear firsthand what has happened, what is next, what we need to do, who we need to call, who to recruit. Through Strong Schools Maryland, I learned about advocacy and what works and what doesn't. I've learned my way around Annapolis, not just geographically, but also the process and structure of our state government. No question has ever been too small or insignificant, so my confidence has grown because of the leaders of Strong Schools Maryland. I've been given the tools that I need to be the grassroots leader to help get this blueprint through the General Assembly, and I am so thankful to be part of this group. It's not always easy to stand up for what we believe in, and even harder to try to convince others to agree. And now I will repeat this story that Joe just shared. One day in Annapolis, here's from my point of view, I was standing with a group of advocates, all of us in our red shirts, when Joe yelled, "There goes a senator who we really need to convince to vote our way." Without a thought, I chased her up the marble steps, which I don't do very well, and said, "May I talk to you for a second?" She looked at my shirt, I was wearing my red shirt, and stopped. I explained to her why I so strongly support the blueprint and how important it was for her to vote in favor of this bill. And in the end, she did, and has been one of our biggest supporters. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, David Hornbeck, all my friends, my team leaders, Dr. Thornton, and to Dr. Kerwin. I am so thankful to have attended that event in 2017. Thanks to my Montgomery County team who has stayed the course and are on this call tonight celebrating with us. We are looking forward to the next step, implementation. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Lisa, for sharing. And so we talked a lot about team leaders. We've talked a lot about team members. We talked about legislators. But one area that we really need to make sure that we talk about, which you'll see on the next slide here, is that we would not be where we are without our foundational supporters. Now, movements are built by people, but we need support. And there are so many times along the way where Strong Schools Maryland wouldn't be what we are without visionary philanthropists. And many of them are on this call tonight. And I want to mention a few in particular. There was a time early on in Strong Schools Maryland's history where without the visionary leadership of Mr. Robert Meyerhoff and Ms. Rita Becker, we wouldn't be where we are. I can say that with a straight face, that Strong Schools wouldn't exist without their support. And the same with Mark and Pat Joseph. We wouldn't be here without them, so thank you. And as we grew, because of their investment, we were able to convince others, and others saw the potential and knew advocacy was what it was about. And I wish I could name every individual and every organization, but the Able Foundation believed in it early on and really brought us to a place where we could say, look, we have something here. Let's bring it to others. David and Michael Blair, the Blaustein Foundation, Baltimore Community Foundation stepped in at so many crucial points to help us. The Sachs Family Foundation, the Richmond Family Foundation, the Strauss Foundation said yes before we were a thing. And I wish I could go through every single person who helped us, both with thought partnership and with foundational support. But we're going to turn the floor over to one of our foundational supporters who has been a backbone of this work. Karen Weber at OSI has not only been a philanthropic supporter, but has been a thought partner, a behind the scenes champion, and someone who got it before there was anything to get. And so Karen, thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me, that I'm audible.
We can. Thank you, Karen.
I feel a little bit embarrassed to be representing the foundations. I know that I may have the biggest mouth of the group, but I know we didn't always have the deepest pockets. What we did do, though, is believe in this cause. I'm a former educator myself, right in Baltimore City Public Schools, and I know the potential we have when we have the right support and the right funding. And this bill was the right thing to do. Was so impressed with all of the leadership as well as the strategy as to how we were going to get the message to everyone across the state. David Hornbeck came in early on. He came bellowing into the office, talking about the millions that we were going to have to make this thing happen. And I did think he was a little bit off kilter. However, in really listening deeply, I knew that David was on the right track. We provided what we could. I do think, though, and there's always a story to tell, the most impressive thing was when I asked Joe, I said, we've tapped out of money, but can you come to a board meeting and talk to my board and tell them where we are? We're so close, and I know you need more funding. Come to my board and tell them what's going on. Joe came. I think he might have even had his car towed that day because he had to park downtown. But he was so impassioned that board members stepped up individually and personally to be part of this commitment. And it was that type of fire that all of Strong Schools Maryland had as they came and spoke to individuals, whether they were on the, right there on the scenes at the ground level or sitting up, high in the rafters in Ivy Towers. Everyone understood that if we don't educate our children and if we don't supply them with the proper tools that they need to be part of the 21st century, that we as a state would fail. So I just want to say huge congratulations, but I also want to say to my fellow philanthropists that we have to support advocacy. Supporting advocacy is supporting democracy. It is the democratic process at work, and this is a prime example thereof. The only other message I wanted to leave you with is that we can't stop short. Yes, the bill has passed, but we have to stay the course and help Strong School Maryland make sure that the funding goes in the places that it is supposed to go to. So let's stay strong and stay with Strong Schools Maryland so that our children can get what they need and what they deserve. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me this airtime.
Karen, thank you for not only your words, but your support over the years. And even before you were at OSI, you were a public education champion that it's hard to describe in words what you mean to the public education sphere. So thank you for everything you've done. And thank you for your continued support and your kind words tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jumping back over to the slides, we have our keynote speaker coming up. We have one more set of people to thank before we jump to our keynote. So if we could jump back to our slides, I want to call out a few more individuals and make sure that we're all on the same page. So we keep talking about people who made this happen. The staff of Strong Schools Maryland has really done work that's been unbelievable. And so I wouldn't be able to end tonight without thanking a few specific individuals before we get to our keynote. So the first set of people I think takes special recognition, and that's David Hornbeck and Taylor Stewart. Both David as the founder and Taylor as a founding board member, we wouldn't be here without their work and their visionary leadership. So David, Taylor, thank you for your work. The next set of people who I know are on the call tonight, and I want to take a special moment to pause, as Shannon and Sue, co-executive directors of Strong Schools Maryland, who laid the foundation for the work that we were able to build upon. And I know Shannon loves to give speeches in large groups. So Shannon, I'm just kidding. Shannon, I would never do that to you. But I do want to say your work built the foundation of where we went. And the state of Maryland is thankful to Sue, Shannon for all of their work. Hopefully now that the blueprint is ready to be implemented, that can draw you back to Maryland, Shannon. There's work to be done. So come on back. We got plenty more to do. And I would also be remiss if we didn't mention Lindsay for all the work that she did over the last year, organizing the state. She is now in the mayor's office in DC working on education policy. So if anyone wants to recruit a star back to the state for public education, Lindsay is the person to grab. So let's get her from DC and get her back to Maryland here. The next set of folks that I want to thank, Dave, Lauren, and Tucker, all came into Strong Schools at very important moments and lent their considerable talents to help Strong Schools become what it is. We also had Pat Murray, whom some of you may know, but our original executive director of Strong Schools Maryland, who I don't know if there's a job in the state of Maryland that Pat has not had, but executive director of Strong Schools is one of them. And then Brendan and Austin also lent their talents to Strong Schools Maryland. Finally, we have Allie, who's on the call, Jacob, Sarah, and Joe, who are all on the call. All have donated so much of their time to Strong Schools Maryland. The amazing video you saw tonight, Joe created. The awesome infographics and social media content that you see, as well as this background behind me with Sarah, Jacob, and Austin really elevated teacher voice. Thank you for doing the work that you do. And then finally, Allie and Shamoya. I can't say enough. Shamoya, our deputy director, I'm going to say this to everyone. Keep an eye on Shamoya because she is going to run public education in the state of Maryland for the next 30 years. She has had a hand in every major amendment, every conversation around ensuring that the blueprint for Maryland's future helps the students it needs to help. And Shamoya is someone who leads with her values and is an absolute star that Maryland is lucky to have and public education in the state is lucky to have. And Allie, a former TABCO teacher, joined our team this year and has hit the ground running and is one of the best organizers, natural organizers I've ever seen. So thank you to Allie for joining our team and leading us into the future. Many of you are going to get calls and emails from Allie over the next couple of months because we'll need you to do more. As organizers, it's never enough. So thank you to the staff. And I believe we're going to cut away from the slide deck here. So Allie, go ahead and do a quick cutaway. And I think there's someone that we need to highlight. So there's one person on your screen here that we've already thanked, and he does not know what's about to happen. So David Hornbeck, the founder of Strong Schools Maryland, has done amazing work. Many of you may not know, but David's been doing work in the public education sector in the country and making kids' lives better for decades. There are few people in the state who know more about public education, care more deeply than David. David's been pushing for equity before pushing for equity was a thing. Ask him about the original, I guess it would be the algebra project of Philadelphia. There's stories there that matter for how we got to where we are today. And David, the work that you do matters tremendously. And so Strong Schools Maryland, every year from now on, is going to be giving out an award in your name. It's the David Hornbeck Education Advocate Award for someone that's not in the legislature, but has contributed to Maryland's public education space in outsized ways. And so, David, your name will forever grace this trophy. And every year, someone will be the David Hornbeck Education Advocate Award winner. And I am proud to say the first ever recipient of the David Hornbeck Education Advocate Award is none other than Dr. Britt Kerwin, the chair of the Kerwin Commission. So, David, thank you for your work. Your name will live on this trophy for education advocates for decades to come. And Britt, Dr. Kerwin, you, sir, are our first champion and education advocate award winner. Dr. Kerwin, the floor is yours.
Oh my goodness, Joe, I'm overwhelmed. I feel in so many ways embarrassed because it takes so many people for this to happen. And it's just, it has been a phenomenal experience to work with all of you on this enormously important effort. And I have to say, it is especially meaningful to me to be recognized with something that has David Hornbeck's name on it. I knew David or knew of David when he was a superintendent here in Maryland and thought so highly of him. And I could never overstate how important he was to me during the work of this commission. He was a constant source of prodding, yes, prodding, but sound advice, and often came and testified to the commission. So it's just, I have such great admiration for David, and to be recognized with something, as I say, with his name on it, has very special meaning to me. But I want to re-emphasize that, you know, to do something of this magnitude, it takes, in this instance for sure, a whole village and more of people coming together, working together toward this common purpose and goal. And so I'm very pleased tonight to have the opportunity to express heartfelt thanks to all of those who have played such an important role in getting us to the place we are today. And of course, we have to start with the General Assembly. And we heard from two phenomenal leaders in the General Assembly, but President Ferguson and Speaker Adrienne Jones and their leadership throughout all of this meant everything. And of course, they were joined by such effective and forceful advocates for the Blueprint bill, 8 of whom served on the commission I chaired. I think we also need to recognize tonight 2 gentlemen, sadly, who aren't with us anymore. And that's Mike Miller and Mike Bush, because it was the 2 of them that had the vision to create this commission. And they were such a champions of what we were expected to do from the very start. And it's sad to me to think that they weren't here to see the fruits of what they launched. But we will always be indebted to them, because without them, the commission probably would not have been formed. And of course, my colleagues on the commission, what an incredible group of people, 26 individuals who just spent volunteer time, extraordinary amount of time and work in producing the report that led to the Blueprint bill. And of course, I can't mention the commission without mentioning Rachel Heiss and the staff at DLS, who were so phenomenally able and competent in helping the commission do its work. But I have to say, from someone who was at the center of this from the start, what was so powerfully reinforcing, inspiring, I would say, was the groundswell of citizen support from across the state, the grassroots support championing this this cause. The videos we saw at the very beginning of the show tonight, they brought tears to my eyes. Think of all those people coming down to Annapolis, marching, coming week after week, handing out brochures, talking to whoever they could talk to, the letters that were written, the team T-shirts. It was just, it was so inspiring to sense and feel that kind of grassroots support. It meant everything. And of course, there's just no question, the glue, the inspiration for this grassroots support was Strong Schools Maryland and its partners. It just couldn't have worked with the efficiency and effectiveness it did without this coming together under the umbrella of Strong Schools Maryland. And for that, he's already been thanked, but how can you not thank once again Dave Hornbeck? This was his idea. This was his idea. He knew it would work. He had started something like this in Pennsylvania, and he brought this idea to this effort. And when he first talked to me about it, I thought, oh, David, I mean, can you really pull this off? Can it happen? Could it really be? And he made it happen. And, there were so many important business and community leaders that were right there from the start, helping us think all this through. I think about people like Jim Shea and Donald Manikin and others who helped with the conception of what Strong Schools Maryland could be. And of course, Joe, you and Shamoya and your staff, my goodness, how fortunate we are that we've had you making sure that coming up with the ideas and making sure that all these things happen. And most especially, and I say this with heartfelt thanks to the thousands of volunteers who brought their time and talent and energy. What a difference you made. What we have accomplished with this collective effort is really quite remarkable. I think one could say it's even miraculous. No other state has ever done anything like this. And when the commission met for the first time in the fall of 2016, and incidentally, I was told this was a one-year job. The commission met for the first time in the fall of 2016. In my fondest dreams, I thought, well, we might be able to produce a report that would lead to a bill that could create something as powerful and comprehensive and as the blueprint bill. But I was far from certain that could occur. I will say this, if on that first day, someone had told me that it would take 3 years of commission work, the passage of 2 bills in the General Assembly, and the override of a veto to produce the result, I would have said, and I think most people would have said, it can't be done. That's too much. It just can't happen. In fact, I remember David Hornbeck coming to me when it was clear that we weren't there yet and it was going to take another year. He said, Brett, I don't know how we hold this together for another year. It's just too much. And but hold it together we did. And that's why I give such heartfelt thanks to all of you, the volunteers across the state. Your commitment, time, and dedication were the inspiration and, quite frankly, that kept me going at some very dark moments in the effort to get this done. I'll never forget, I mean, just an example of the commitment that was felt from people all over the state. I had the pleasure in the 2020 session of watching the debate on the final day in the Senate when the bill was up for, vote and passage. And the Strong Schools Maryland had a party, a Zoom party, so we could all come and watch this through Strong Schools Maryland. And as we were watching, up on the screen would pop texts that people were sending to senators, hundreds of texts in real time, telling them, vote for this bill. I mean, I just think about the kind of commitment, the passion, the caring, the dedication that you've all shown to make this happen is something I will remember all of my life. I've said many times that this is maybe the most difficult thing I've ever worked on in my life, but I honestly believe it is also the most important thing. So what we've together accomplished, I tell you, it's something miraculous. No state has ever done anything like this. In fact, I was on a program the other night, and I heard the NEA president, Becky Pringle, say to a large audience that with the passage of this bill, the state of Maryland has become the model for our nation with pre-K through 12 education. So we have a lot to celebrate. But as we celebrate, I do want to offer a word of caution. And it's picking up on a theme that the Senate President just said. And that is, I like to think of it this way. We have set the table for an equitable education system that will be as good as any in the world. But for us to enjoy the feast of that education, our work isn't done. The recommendations in this report are so profound, it's going to require a 10-year implementation period. 10 years is a long time. And there are many steps in this implementation. And it is absolutely imperative that the recommendations in this report be implemented with fidelity, with faithfulness, and that the funding called for in this report is allocated in support of the recommendations. And I call upon Strong Schools Maryland. You've got to continue this effort. We need a force out there that will be the watchdog, so to speak, that will monitor what's happening each year in the General Assembly to ensure that the steps called for in the bill, and the good news is the implementation is laid out on a year-by-year basis. We know exactly what's supposed to happen in each of the years for the next 10 years. So we can just look at that and tell, is it happening? Is the funding called for being there, put into the budget? And so I want to urge all of us who care so deeply about education in our state, the quality of education, the equity of our education, that we have to stay on this, and we have to ensure that we have this faithful implementation. So Joe and Shamoya, your work's not done yet. And I know that with your talent and energy and the dedication of all of our volunteers, we can keep this thing going. And when we do, we will know that Maryland has arrived with the best education system in the United States, and one as good as any other in the world. I tell you, if we do this, every state in the union is going to follow our model. So we've got to be vigilant over the next 10 years. But that's for the months and years to come. And I think, quite frankly, right now, with all this hard work, we have earned the right to celebrate. So let the celebration, the champagne corks, the whatevers pop as we celebrate this grand moment. And thank you all once again for making it happen.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kerwin. If you could see the comment section while you were talking, it was lighting up with thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so what better way to work off than with Dr. Kerwin's words? So I'm going to just say thank you again to everyone. Shamoya is going to take us out with the call to action for the future. But Dr. Kerwin, I can promise you Strong Schools Maryland will stay in the fight. There's a few folks that we did not recognize that I want to make sure get calls out. Delegate Rosenberg, Dr. Thornton, Chair Kaiser, Senator Elfreth, Delegate Feldmark, Delegate Queen, Delegate Adberry, all on the call tonight, Delegate McIntosh. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to all the team leaders. Shamoya, thank you to your work. Why don't you take us out with our call to action?
And thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone, so much. We got our big win, and it is so important that we take the time like tonight to celebrate our successes, each other, and our impact on students and schools across the state. This pouring into our cups, the self-care and reflection is so critical to keep us going in the fight for educational equity and world-class schools here in Maryland. The power and relationships that we've built over the last few years are even more important now that we've seen this major shift. You have heard it before. The legislative session is still in full swing, and there are a lot of great opportunities for even deeper impact ahead of us. You heard it from Senate President Ferguson, Dr. Kerwin, from Lisa, and from yourselves in the chat, and you'll hear it again from me now. Soon, I will be calling on all of you to help us monitor the implementation of this historic legislation. So keep an eye on your inboxes. Keep talking to your friends, your families, your neighbors about the importance of the blueprint for Maryland's future and this historic victory. Thank you all, and have a wonderful evening.